Hello and welcome to the 31st unit of this course in Global English. We are in the writing module at number 10, unit number 10 of writing. Today we are going to talk about what a lot of language teachers, not just English teachers, but a lot of teachers of other languages as well, call coherence and cohesion. In other words, here we talk about a kind of grammar which is above the ordinary grammar of sentences. This talks about grammar of putting sentences together in a paragraph, or it also applies, a word like cohesion also applies to words within a sentence. How do different words get together within a sentence, and how do different sentences within a paragraph get together, and how do different paragraphs get together to make a report, an essay, a story, short or long, a novel, or any other piece of writing where two or more words have to come together. This piece of writing is governed not only by ordinary grammar that we know of, it is also governed by a grammar of what we call coherence and cohesion. In other words, it makes for readability, for smoothness, and for total meaning, including meaning of sequence, meaning of intentions, meaning of tone when writing, etc., etc. Let us see. Here we will look at some examples and some problems in this area. There is a very simple ordinary question, all words are classified into some categories. Grammarians and English teachers and teachers of other languages call them nouns, verbs, adjectives and adverbs. They have meanings, they have, you can make other words out of them, and this is, these are the words we talk about. Some people, some books also call them content words, because essential meaning of what you want to say lies within these words. These are the meaning carrying words. In many books they are known as content words. But how are they joined with one another? That work is done by many other small words that have no particular meaning of their own. Okay? They are what many grammar books called structure words or function words as against content words. They are structure words because they join content words, words with meaning, into a structure. Sometimes a question sentence, sometimes a sentence of observation. What kind of words get into this compartment? They are mostly articles, such as a and the. In English, other languages have also their own articles, or what are called identifier words. So they also help. Then other than articles, pronouns help. They connect. You cannot say again and again, the president came to visit our club, the president was on time, the president was happy to see all members present, the president told them that he was very happy that they were doing the college proud. The president then told them that the president would like to meet them again. The president wished that these members also represented India in the Olympics or their country in the Olympics. You cannot repeat the president, the president, the president time and again. It's not a grammatical mistake, but it can be jarring, takes a lot of space, stops the flow of the language. So, what you do is, first time you use the noun, the president visited our club today, and then you use pronoun, he, that means the president, met all the members present. Third sentence, then he complimented them on the good work they were doing. Now, them here would mean members. Okay? Then, so do prepositions, very crucial. No two nouns. I mean, it's not good to say no to nouns. When nouns come into meaningful units, quite often related by prepositions. If you just put two nouns side by side, then in some cases they may have a meaning, but in some other cases they may not. Say for example, it is all right, you can have sea water, but you cannot have water sea. You'll have to say water of the sea, water from the sea. We'll look at some examples. Then there are conjunctions, words like and, or, they also join sentences or words in a group, etc. Sometimes some phrases also do that. Okay? Well, of course, by all means, why not? Yeah. Many other, indeed, instead of, okay. So, sometimes even these phrases, more than one word, but behaving like one word, units, as I said in an earlier unit, a good and aspiring writer must have three things. Number one, books, some books, like a dictionary, an encyclopedia, a thesaurus. Now, all of these things are available on the net. So, you may not have their hard copies, but these things may be available to you. These things actually must be available to you, so that when you write, and if you have any difficulty with spelling, punctuation, vocabulary, meaning, origin of the word, pronunciation of the word, you should be able to know. Then a thesaurus helps you in another very definite manner. You want to say good, but you are not happy with the word good. So, what can you say? You have a choice between nice, fine, excellent, splendid, marvelous, wonderful, outstanding, gorgeous, great. Now, what is it you want to, what is it you will choose? So, a thesaurus groups all of these words together and gives you precise meaning and examples for all of these. So, a writer must also have on hand, whether online or offline, hard copy or soft copy, virtual or real, thesaurus. You can check the net for good or bad thesaurus, if this is it. Pronounced thesaurus, the stress here. Okay. And then third, encyclopedia. While writing, you want to check the origin of a particular name or word, or where did the word greyhound come from, or where did particular word a shepherd dog come from, and then encyclopedia can tell you. Today, all of these three things, dictionary, thesaurus, and encyclopedia. Dictionary, thesaurus, and encyclo. All of these three things today are done by the net. So, it does not matter, but you must have it handy, and we have included one unit at least to draw your attention to these things in this course. Unconnected, they have nothing to do with one another. Okay. So, with the third, in the third you do not know if distance of schools is is a problem for female students or it is an asset for female students. What is it you want to say? Okay. Simply numbers may give you some idea, as in 4 what male respondents and what female respondents say, but you cannot be sure. You still have an uneasy feeling that I understand it, but do not understand it, that kind of feeling. So, these small little words, you can try and connect these sentences into meaningful units. See if you can do a good job. It does not matter if these sentences mean differently from what they are in the original paragraph, which is where I have taken these words from, just to show you how crucial a function these little words called structure words perform in communication. Okay? So, let us see. It is the same words now, okay? But don't you feel these words read better now? Okay? Because the missing structure words, the missing glue, the missing link has been added. To draw your attention, to make it clear for you, we have underlined the added words, okay, so that it is easy for you. So, the first sentence earlier was, are two charts, one male, female respondents, etc. In when we have added what was gone, then we see it is there are two charts, one each for male and female respondents. Similarly, between lack and interest, we have added off. Before other reason, we have added the word an. So, but when you say lack of interest is another reason, it means there are 10 or 20 other reasons, but there is one more, and this is it. Okay. Other factors, so other has been added, to has been added, preposition, other factors contributing to dropout rates include, etc., etc. And finally, we have added and this way we have related this other part to the main part, and then to school, the infinitive. Look at the other things, all kinds of words that would link, that would have linked these remaining words were removed, but once you have added them, they not only make very clear sense, they also read better, easy on your tongue, easy in your mind. Okay. Let us go on. So, this is cohesion, that is now everything has fallen in a place. It is like the shirt you and I are wearing. It is a piece of cloth, we could have draped it otherwise, but once we put buttons, once we put a design and we put it on somebody's body, on somebody's shoulder, and it fits. So, here also these words of course Content words of course are the words which communicate, but they communicate well and correctly as intended because they are united in a structure. They are cohesively put together like the wall of a house. It has mortar, it has bricks, it has cement, it has sand, it has stone chips. Now by themselves they would not make a house, but when you put them together and plaster them with cement, then you make a house. So it is these little words that make language. Of course, there would be no language if there were not the other words, but the point I am making is these words which apparently do not have their own meaning add meaning to and structure to the other words that are said to be content words. Okay? So, what do these words do? These structure words do? They usually tie other words within the sentence or the paragraph in a cohesive unit. It reads well. Let us take another example. Let us see how this reads. What do you think? We have already seen this unit, and if you remember, it will help you. You can see it simply says, once again it is a jumble of words. Forest somewhere, Himalayas, vast lake, very sweet water, surrounded some best fruit trees, world. What are we talking about? Who are we talking about? Is there a problem here? Okay? That is the problem, that the problem is not clear. The only thing clear here is this structure is incomplete. Sentences have either not been designed well or they are yet to be designed well. In either case, there is an error. So, with the second paragraph, monkey lived jamun tree. Jamun tree was very special human, jamun tree was very special. Jamun tree gave wonderful black swollen berries here. What do you want to say? Berries here. Okay. Monkey ate fruits, played trees. Like you play guitar, did he play trees? So, this is how absence of these structure words can lead us to wrong meaning. You can try and rewrite them using the missing words, grammars, articles, prepositions that are missing here. Okay? And you can also do the same thing on any other text and then see. Let us see here. The second paragraph, the monkey lived. We are talking about a particular monkey. So, in English language, we simply cannot say monkey. We will either have to say monkeys or a monkey or the monkey. Because we are talking about a particular monkey, so we have said the monkey. Okay. Then lived on a jamun tree. Now, this jamun tree, it is not in the earlier sentence it appears to be an unrelated jamun tree, as if there are many other jamun trees. Monkey lived jamun tree was very special. Is it the same jamun tree or another jamun tree? From this sentence we do not know. We know that in the next slide, when you look at the same sentence, better written or better united. This jamun tree was very special. It gave wonderful, you can say, why don't we use it here itself? We could. The monkey lived on a jamun tree. We could have said it was a very, very special. But then sometimes non-human elements are also referred as it. So, I did not use it because nothing is more important in language than unambiguous communication, clarity. That is why language has been designed by God or nature or whoever. Okay. So, the monkey lived on a jamun tree, and if I had said it was very special, then it could be slightly confusing. But here nobody who knows any English would find a confusion. The monkey lived on a jamun tree. This jamun tree was very special. It gave wonderful it gave wonderful black swollen berries, etc., etc. Okay. So, all of these missing words together make them a meaningful, easier to read paragraph. What have we added? We have added lots of prepositions. To, of, for, to, of, by, from, among, on, round, without, there could be more. Then articles like a and the, then pronouns like there, this, it, each, all of these things, and conjunctions like and or another, have also been used. It is these little words like cement, under and above and beside the walls, that makes house. It is these little sentences that create a structure called language. Of course, they have no meaning their own. You cannot say the and then expect it to mean anything, but you can say cat or bull, it still means something. I can still see some picture before me. Okay, all right. The idea is you should do the practice, rewrite, check, and once and don't do it for too long. Don't do it for 4 hours, 3 hours. If your time permits, you can do it even for half an hour, 15 minutes. Okay. Look at some text and see what kind of structure words have been used. If you replaced them, would you be able to put them back in place? If you are, then you have learned the language. Okay. So, here these words have been added to make those 2 paragraphs meaningful. Now, we must use whatever words we use correctly, appropriately. So, no matter what we use, what word, what phrases, they must be used correctly, they must be put together correctly. Now, how do we do that? How do we know what is correct, where we can take liberty from rules, where we cannot? Okay. Of course, find good material to read. Then conjunctions have been added. Don't depend only upon your guesswork if time permits, but as the next possible moment, go to the dictionary or thesaurus and see how these same words are used. Chances are nothing will go wrong. Okay. So, we have not listed usual pronouns. Of course, there are some, of course, here, she, he, it, I. We begin with there, then, here, this, that, okay, which is again for the same purpose, creating a unified structure. Then, of course, there are other reference markers, so, hence, though, they, etc., etc. All right. Let us move on. Let us talk about prepositions. Take a look how many different. The list is not exhaustive. There are a few more, but not very common indeed. So, I have left them here. Okay. Look at the prepositions. Aren't these the frequently used prepositions? If we master them, we can master the language. Prepositions and discourse markers are used very much in joining 2 sentences. What are the prepositions that are frequently used? So, you can make a class. There are prepositions which unite nouns in space. Okay? A space as in geographical space. So, you can say that an earthquake came last year in Tibet. So, in is a as indicated here. This is a preposition of space. On space, it unites 2 people. Okay. Then you have on, over, under, out, etc. Then time. You have a lot of prepositions only for time. After, come after 9 o'clock, at, come at 9 o'clock. These categories are exclusive. All I am trying to say is that these words are generally used in these contexts. Okay? Let us say discourse markers. So far we talked about cohesion, which unites different words into sentence. We have not gone over sentence level yet, but let us take a look. Sentences are united through other sentences primarily by meaning, okay, but explicitly through words, also by these words, like so, that, of course, by all means, though, although. These words appear to be, these words are known in the books of language teaching as discourse markers, because when you put sounds together you make words, when you put words together you make a sentence, and when you put sentences together, can you put any sentence in any order? And we saw that that can cause serious difficulties. Therefore, we use words in an order, and to relate these words with one another, we use cohesive devices and coherent devices or coherence devices. Okay. So, those devices that join sentences with one another or big clause within a sentence with one another are in the literature of language teachers known as discourse markers. Look at some discourse markers. What are the kinds of discourse markers? They also come about 5-6 classes. Say for example, there are some discourse markers which you can call inclusive. Say for example, you can say actually. Now, this is not a one sentence expression. Several sentences have gone before and it is your turn now to speak. So, you can say actually, Mr. Speaker, I have come to criticize the previous speaker, or Mr. Creature, I have come to support the previous speaker. So, so includes actually, also, and, or, although, altogether. Although my friend has been reluctant, I know, I can tell you that she is one of the great scientists in her field in this country. Okay? So, actually exactly these things include people and make one unit called inclusive discourse markers. Then there can be things like causes and effects, or cause and effect, because something will happen as a result, or that is why. Suppose you have stated the reason, oh, somebody left the fire stove burning last night, and then you say that is why the room was so uncomfortably hot. Then sometimes even for or since, So, similarly, there are comparative markers and concluding markers. Among concluding we have, let's go. So, first look at the first sentence here. So, I will today not give a talk, but tell you some stories. So, what does this word do? There are two discourse markers here, so and but. So begins a part of a sentence which the next part but will either cut it, close it, or sometimes so also brings conclusions, but here it is not the purpose. Even the speaker, the writer is yet to submit their final point. After all, what does it mean? It means that some arguments have been given against it. They are also plausible. It is not that they are non-plausible, but by using some common sense, you are able to save yourself. Actually, not here, this is the preposition. Of course, it all kinds of argument, you can say, you can acknowledge the universal truth. Of course, I know man is mortal, but insurance can help the family. Okay. So, sometimes you use constructions of this kind, but mostly these things, what is the meaning of which these, what has been said before, to which these refers, that is not clear. And because that is not clear, you will always be troubled whether I wrote well, because mostly these things go in an orderly fashion. You say the same thing, but you say it totally differently. Okay. Now, the words like but are used to contradict what has been said earlier. Okay. I know you have difficulties, but I would like to have only this. Okay. So, you say the same thing, but you say it totally differently. So, common lack in the story. This last, by the way, so by the way is an example, a good example. Now, this is literature. What is the meaning of now? Not at this moment. Now is a word of conclusion. So, let us conclude, this is literature. So, if and then kind of a structure, you can bring two sentences or two parts of a big sentence together. If you can say, if you keep your eyes and ears open, then you will see and treat literatures around you well. Okay. So, but if brings a condition, but negates it, because sometimes it is so well understood, you may not even need to see it or show it, but then you must understand it well, what you can use, where which preposition can be used where. Okay. And then you must also remember that prepositions unite, they also caused cohesion, they also called coherence. Some more sentences for your practice. Okay. Not too difficult, but you can see each word here we could have underlined whatever. These are discourse markers. That is why you could have said therefore, or because in our homes we have had the Himalayas. For the sake of emphasis, sometimes you bring it. That is the book I am talking about. You can also say I am talking about that book, but then it is not the same degree of emphasis. So, you can also find sometimes it being in the print. It is the airport maintenance that suffered. Okay. It acknowledges that others may also have, but then more is with us. So, it is similarly, that is, those that. So, all of these words, no matter what we say or write, are not complete without proper use of discourse markers. These are some discourse markers. Okay. So, fog, if you take too many technical words in your writing, too much jargon of your subject into writing, then it is quite likely that even while talking you may digress, you may feel sleepy, you may lose thread. So, some examples are given here. Here is an example, you can work it out. okay, and then check with the given answers. So, thank you. See you at the next unit.